Welcome back to the deep dive.
So today we have a stack of sources that, on the surface, look pretty straightforward.
They really do. You see this and you think, okay, a gardening diary. Simple.
But as soon as you peel back that first layer, you realize we're not just looking at plants.
No, not at all. We are looking at a very specific, I'd say very intense way of viewing the world.
That is the perfect way to frame it. We're looking at a blog post and the whole archive around it from a site called qianmeng.org.
And the author who goes by Ang, he's not your typical, garden influencer.
Not at all. He actually describes himself as an old software plumber.
A software plumber.
Right. And that self-description is, I think, the key to unlocking everything we're about to discuss. A plumber deals with the messy, unglamorous pipes of the system.
Okay.
And he says he spends his nights tinkering with Flaw, that's free and open source software.
So our mission today is really to see what happens when you take that kind of rigorous, logical, systems engineering mind and you apply it to the organic, chaotic mess of nature.
And specifically, a post called Notes on Gardening, Part 784.
And we are definitely going to talk about that number 784.
Oh, yeah.
Because that number is a whole story in itself. But let's start with the subject of this specific note, the butterfly plant.
Christia obcordata.
Right. I had to look this one up because the blog mentions it, but, doesn't get super descriptive. And it is a stunning plant.
It's incredible. The leaves are triangular, shaped exactly like a butterfly's wings when it's flying.
With these, dark red stripes on the green.
Exactly. And if you get a little breeze, the whole plant looks like a swarm of butterflies just hovering. It's really kinetic.
So it's beautiful. But in this post from January 22nd, 2026, Ang isn't really writing about its beauty. It feels more like a bug report.
That's it. It's a bug report. He starts with a realization. He says he's had this plant for many moons, but he checks his archives, and he realizes he's never written a single word about it.
Which, for a normal person, is totally fine. I mean, I have plants I've never written about.
Right. But for Ang, this feels like a system failure, a gap in the documentation.
In open source, if a feature isn't documented, it's a problem, right?
It's a huge problem. It means no one can learn from it, and no one can track its history. So he sits down to write Part 784 to, correct the record.
And he describes his care strategy. And this part made me laugh because he frames it so technically. He calls it a strategy of neglect.
Benign neglect, yeah. He says he barely waters it, barely fertilizes it. In software terms, this is like running a legacy server. You just stick it in a corner and make sure the power's on.
You don't touch it. Just let it run.
Exactly.
Until, of course, the users start complaining.
Yeah.
And he mentions that his significant other favors this species above all the others.
And that's the user demand. The key stakeholder loves this feature, so the engineer has to pay attention.
So he gives it a hardware upgrade. He says they recently moved it to a larger pot, more RAM, more soil.
But even with the hardware upgrade, the system's underperforming. And this is where Ang finds a gap in his own knowledge base. He says, I wasn't aware that Christia obcordata is a flowering species.
So that's the bug.
That's the bug. He's seen the documentation photos online of these purple and white flowers, but his local instance of the plant? Nothing. Zero blooms.
Just leaves. So a feature that's supposed to execute this blooming script, it's just failing.
Right. And a regular gardener might just say, oh, well, maybe next year.
Or I don't have a green thumb.
Yeah, but what does a software plumber do?
He looks for a batch.
He looks for a patch. He goes to the nursery, finds the very last one they have in stock, and buys it. But not just to have it, but for future propagation.
He's creating redundancy.
He is. He's thinking, okay, my current build is stable, but it lacks features. I'm going to get a new version, run it in parallel, and see if I can trigger the flowering event on the new system.
It's A/B testing for his garden. He's literally running 2 versions of the plant to see which one works.
It is. And it shows he sees the garden as a system to be optimized and debugged, not just a decoration.
I just love that. But if we stopped there, it would just be a cute story. But like we said, Part 784.
Yes. That number, it implies a history.
That number just stopped me in my tracks. I thought, is that a typo?
Or like a random ID number?
Yeah. But no, it's sequential.
It is. And that's where we pull back from botany and look at what you could call the data structure of a life.
Because when you look at the sidebar of his blog, you're just hit with this wall of data. It's massive.
It's a taxonomy of curiosity. It's a map of his brain.
Notes on gardening is just one category. I was scrolling through the others. It's wild. It's like a library organized by one guy's interests.
So what'd you see?
Well, you've got the heavy tech stuff, of course. Notes on Elixir, Erlang, Python, AI, Rust.
The standard toolkit for a back-end engineer. He's documenting his professional learning, keeping the receipts.
But then right next to all that, you get notes on dieting, notes on home improvement, notes on guitar, and notes on meditation.
It's holistic, isn't it? He's not separating his work brain from his life brain. He applies the same rigorous version control to his meditation as he does to his code.
He doesn't see a difference between debugging his code and, I guess, debugging his stress levels.
There was one category that really stood out to you, though, wasn't there?
Yes. It sounds like something from a video game. Under his projects, he has beta spawn logs and Miss Fish's spawn logs.
Spawn logs, that jumped out at me too.
It sounds like a server process, right? The demon is spawning.
Or monsters spawning in a dungeon. But no, he's talking about fish breeding.
He is. But think about that word choice. In computing, spawning is when an entity is created in the system. To him, biological reproduction is a process that generates data.
It has inputs, outputs, success rates.
So he's tracking the creation of new life with the same sterile rigor as a sysadmin tracking server logs.
And it removes the sentimentality, but it adds this layer of intense observation. You're not just glancing at the fish, you're noting water temperature, time of day. You are monitoring the system.
Which brings us to the now, or at least the now of the source.
Yeah.
This snapshot from January 2026, and the activity level is kind of terrifying.
Prolific is one word for
I
it.
did a quick count. The archive lists 72 entries for January 2026 alone.
And our source is dated January 25th.
So that's almost 3 posts a day.
Yeah.
Every single day. And these are not tweets, they're deep dives.
Yeah, if you scan the titles from that month, you see a man in a furious bout of learning and problem solving. It's like a sprint in software development.
A life sprint.
Yeah, a life sprint.
And it looks like he was fighting battles on multiple fronts in January 2026.
He really was. Besides the butterfly plant, his fish tanks were in crisis. You see, Notes on Fish Keeping, Part 179, The Unexpected Algae Bloom.
And then Part 173, The Black-Beard Algae. That sounds like a pirate villain.
It's worse than a pirate. In the aquarium world, blackbeard algae, or BBA, is a nightmare. It's this stubborn, tufted algae that's almost impossible to kill.
So it's a persistent bug in the ecosystem.
A very persistent bug, but look at how he handles it. He has a post, Part 178, Building a Custom Sump.
So he doesn't just complain, he builds a structural solution. He re-engineers the whole system to patch the vulnerability.
Exactly. He sees the tank as a closed system that needs debugging.
And at the same time, he's debugging his own body. I saw Notes on Dieting, Part 114, deep dive into Lei Cha.
Right. So in the morning, he's optimizing his aquarium to remove toxins. And at lunch, he's optimizing his nutrition to remove toxins from himself.
And in the afternoon, he's apparently trying to learn the hardest programming language on Earth.
You saw the notes on Hacks. It's purely functional, mathematical, abstract. It is notoriously difficult. It doesn't hold your hand.
And the post titles. Visualizing monads. The operator.
Monads are infamous. They are the stumbling block where most people just give up on Haskell.
And he's just grinding through it day after day.
It shows this level of intellectual grit that is exhausting just to read about.
It's relentless. Morning, debug the algae. Afternoon, wrestle with monads. Evening, repot the butterfly plant.
And document it all. That's the key. He's writing it down for the interweb, as he calls it.
Which brings us to the why. Why do all this? Most people just post the highlight reel, look at my perfect flower. We rarely see the algae.
Right, or the code that doesn't compile. Aang is doing the opposite, and I think the clue is in the sidebar of his site where he lists who he supports.
Yes, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the Free Software Foundation, and Wikipedia.
The titans of the open web.
They really are.
These groups stand for the idea that knowledge should be free and shared. But more than that, the open source philosophy is about transparency. You don't hide your bugs, you post them to the issue tracker so the community can fix them.
So he's open sourcing his life.
Precisely. He's treating his life like a public code repository. He posts about the plant not blooming. He posts about the algae. He's saying, here's the raw code of my existence, bugs and all.
He's sharing the error logs.
Because to a scientist or an engineer, a negative result is still a result. Knowing that X didn't work is valuable data.
If you hide the failures, you corrupt the data set.
Exactly. You pretend the system works perfectly when it doesn't.
There's that disclaimer on the site, too, that his opinions are his own.
Yeah, standard boilerplate. But here, it reinforces that this is his personal lab. He's not doing this for a boss. He's doing it for the process. Which brings me to this idea of continuous integration.
That's a software term.
It is. In software, CI is the practice of constantly merging everyone's work into a shared mainline several times a day. You make small changes, you test them, you commit them. You don't wait 6 months.
That's what his posts are. Haskell Part 38, Gardening Part 784. They're daily commits to the project of his life.
Exactly. Whether it's propagating ferns or refactoring code, it's all iteration, try something, observe, document, repeat.
It makes me think about him buying that new butterfly plant. That wasn't just buying a decoration.
No.
He was pushing a new commit to the repository.
Version 2.0, now with potential for blooms. And if that one fails, there will be a Part 785 explaining why. And that will be valuable data.
I also love that he calls his audience the interweb. It feels so old school.
It does. It's from the blogosphere era, before algorithms decided everything for us. This is just a raw chronological journal.
And he's been doing it for so long. The archives go back to, what, 2011?
Yeah, over 15 years of consistent documentation.
That's older than most of the platforms we use every day.
And think about the compounding value of that. Most of us struggle to remember what we did last week, or we misremember it. Our brains edit things.
Oh, absolutely. I've always been good at this. I never struggled with that.
Right. But Ang can look back at June 2014 and see exactly what he was struggling with. He has the receipts. He can't lie to himself because the logs are right there.
Which brings us full circle. The only reason he realized he hadn't written about the butterfly plant was because he checked the logs.
Exactly. The absence of data was the trigger. He realized there was a mismatch between his physical reality and his digital record, and Part 784 closed that loop.
It's kind of inspiring. In a very nerdy way, it makes the mundane feel significant.
It is. It suggests that paying real granular attention to things gives them meaning. By writing 784 notes on gardening, he's invested 784 units of attention into it.
And 179 on fish keeping.
And 40 on Haskell in 1 month. It turns getting through the day into gathering data.
And when you treat your life as data, you can start to optimize it. You can't fix a bug if you don't know it exists.
You know, it makes me look at my own hobbies and just think, I am really bad at version control.
Most of us are, aren't we? We live in the main branch, constantly overwriting our own memories. We make the same mistakes because we didn't document the error code the first time.
We just crash and reboot and hope for the best. Ang keeps a changelog.
A changelog for life. I like that. So we started with this plant that looks like a butterfly, and we've ended up talking about the philosophy of open source living.
As we always say, everything connects if you look deep enough.
The butterfly plant is just one node in this huge network of curiosity. He applies the same version control to nature that he does to servers. And I think that's the big takeaway.
The value of long-term documentation, it lets you spot the patterns you'd otherwise miss.
So here's a thought for you, our listener. We all have things we tinker with. Maybe it's cooking or running or just being a parent.
But we rarely write it down. We assume we'll just remember the recipe that worked or the workout that felt good.
Right. So if you treated your life like a software project, if you logged every version, every bug, and every patch, what patterns would you discover that you're currently missing?
What is the blackbeard algae in your life that keeps coming back because you haven't really documented the root cause?
And what are the butterfly plants sitting in the corner just waiting for you to realize they're actually supposed to bloom?
That's a question worth logging.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next commit.